Okay, it is a hot one in the shop today. Okay, welcome back. It's been a while since I've worked on the Amiga, and since the last video was filmed, I played more with the seeding of the Fat Agnus chip, and I actually got the RAM address bus and RAM clocks to start looking normal, start looking healthy. And when I did that, I lost my green screen, but the video that I was getting was a very squiggly black screen. So then I messed with this some more, and then all of a sudden I lost everything. And the Fat Agnus chip was always warm, but when I lost everything, the Fat Agnus chip was cool. Sorry. It was cool, so it wasn't running at all. So that made me suspect that a bad Fat Agnus socket. And it's been a while since I actually worked on this project, so I would actually have to go back and watch the videos I filmed to see about the pins I was probing and everything. But I'm just gonna not do that. I made up my mind that I was just gonna go ahead and change out the Fat Agnus socket to prevent any, to rule that out, because I was bending the pins and stuff, and it was changing the signals I was getting. So and I ordered everything off of eBay because this is a project and I was trying to be cheap. So I got a socket pooler off of eBay, and I got 2 sockets off of eBay, and I was waiting for them to come in. They've been in for like a month now, but I haven't had the time to work on this project. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and swap out the sockets on the Fat Agnus chip and start troubleshooting again from there. So I did pull the Fat Agnus chip out the wrong way using a screwdriver. So now I can actually do it the right way. And that makes it so much more simpler. And I'll keep it safe over here. And now we're going to flip the board over. Turn on the soldering gun. Oh yeah, I also bought, so I have this desoldering, which works, but it can also be very non-delicate and get too hot, and I was afraid of damaging the board using this, so I don't want to use that. So I do have solder wick, but I also bought off of eBay for like $1 this one right here. So I'm going to try to use this one in just my soldering iron. So first tip with these is you should lube up the O-ring so you get a better seal. You see there's one O-ring there and it's completely dry. So I'm going to use I can use white lithium grease, or I can use Parker O-ring lube. I'm going to use Parker O-ring lube because it's a little thicker and it should create a better seal. Okay, this Parker O-ring lube is extremely thick. And actually it's kind of liquidy because it's kind of separated from being in the shop here. But I'm just going to lube it up with that. Try not to make a mess here. And hopefully that will make a nice suction. Okay, I'm just going to film me attempting to desolder one of the pins, and then we'll see how good that works, and then I'll probably just stop the video and desolder the whole thing. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is add some fresh solder to the joint. So we're going to do this joint right here. Well, first my tip is real dirty, so I want to clean the tip. There we go. Okay, the first thing you want to do is add some fresh solder to the joint so you get better flow. Just like that. And now we want to try sucking it up. Oh, I got the shakes for some reason. That works pretty well. It's still attached a little bit, so one thing you can do is have a small needle nose with you, and as you go through, so it does need a little more. You can kind of wiggle the pins. Okay, and that should be good to move on. Let me zoom that in there. Oh. And as you can see, that should be good to move on and just do all of them like that. I guess I'll do one more on camera to make sure it wasn't a fluke thing. Just add a little solder. And we'll just keep on going around for all 40 some pins. Fun, fun, fun. Okay, audio lead in, audio lead in. Okay, and we're free. For those who are paying attention at home, the arrow goes towards the Fat Agnus label. Really the two hardest pins that I had was the ground pins. These two ground pins. So I ended up, when I got everything loose, I ended up just heating them up and then pulling the socket out relatively painless. One thing that did kind of get me upset is you had to go around and loosen up every single one. Even if you have the whole, you think you have the hole clear out, you got to go and wiggle it to break it off. And when I was wiggling it, my needle nose slipped and I put a scratch down through all these traces here, which this board is clean. This board has never been touched, so it kind of gets me upset that I did that. But looking at it, it looks like it only went through the solder mask. But time will tell. Hopefully I don't have to do any repairs to that. So we'll go ahead and put the new one in. Now one of them had it. Okay, this one was clean. This one had its pins met. Just two of them. And we'll put this clean one in. And arrow goes this way. Oh, you know what? We're gonna have to clean off the. I still never cleaned off the ground. So let's see without the pins in if I can get them cleaned off. Well, I did all this with a $2 shipped from China. There we go. That cleaned them off. The key is you just got to pay attention. Oh, let me get on the camera. The key is you got to pay attention. Keep your clean tip. I just happen to have the perfect size screwdriver to keep the channel clean. And I was able to remove the socket relatively pain-free. Okay, so arrow points towards the label. Oh yeah, let me check this top side here. Everything looks nice and clean on this top side. Arrow pointing towards the label. Sorry, I know I'm not in camera here, but sometimes you gotta sacrifice camera angle to do something right. And there, it seats in relatively well. I wonder if it'll hold in, or do I need, maybe I'm gonna put some pressure on the pins. Yeah, it's holding in there. Okay, so now, oh yeah, I guess I should. The one thing you gotta watch out for though is that this cheap solder suckers will dump solder on your board, which is fine as long as you don't heat it up. Like right there was a piece of solder. Right here's a piece of solder, which they're pretty loose. Okay, I think we're ready to solder it in, and this should be the easy part. I guess we'll do the grounds first. Okay. Gotta tin my tip for some reason. There we go. Okay. And I'll cut back to the video when I finish. Okay, so what do you guys think? Do the solder joints look good? Let me go ahead and use this electronics cleaner. Man, every time I look at the board, all I see is that scratch. And it should be nice and clean. For some reason, I'm using this, you can get this at Walmart, this QD electronic cleaner, and it leaves a sticky residue, which I don't like. So let me get some isopropyl. Okay, so I let the board dry, which didn't take too long, and I also cleaned the contacts on the actual Fat Agnus. So we're ready to seat it in. So you take the Fat Agnus and you mount it upside down because the arrow is pointing towards the label. And try to push it in even. And wow, yes, that is a world of difference. I can just tell by the fit of it. That's totally different than the original. So hopefully that's it. There's only one way to tell. So let me go ahead and drag out the monitor, drag out the power supply, and hook everything up, and we'll do a smoke test. Okay, we got everything set up, and no need to ramble on. Let's see if we let the smoke out of this thing. Wah. We have the green screen again. So look at the Fat Agnus chip is a little warm. But you know, it might just be warm since it's 100 degrees in here. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go and rewatch that video, my last video I posted, and then grab the oscilloscope and then probe the questionable lines that I had, because who knows, maybe I broke a trace when I scratched the bottom of the board. Okay, so success. As you can see, I need to work on that VGA converter, but I had the boot screen. So I'll run through what I did. Let me see if I can get the oscilloscope. Oh. Okay, so this is what happened. So I had the green screen, so then I was like, okay, I'll go and check some of the things I was checking before. So the first thing I checked was that questionable clock, or I wasn't getting a good clock to Gary. So I checked that, and bam, I had a good clock to Gary. So I knew, there you go. So I had a good clock to Gary, so I knew that I was getting somewhere. So then I decided to check the memory. And actually I haven't checked the memory since it started working. Memory looks a little crappy. I think that, let me see if the memory's, oh no, hold on, I'm looking at the wrong one, sorry. Oh, there we go. So memory is active. Okay, so memory wasn't active when I was having problems. Memory wasn't active. That's an address bit on memory. As you can see, it's active. So memory wasn't active at all. The memory was locked up. All the address bits were locked up. So then I was like, okay, let me go back and check the CIA chips. So I checked the pin 23, which is chip select for the CIA chips. And this is the first time checking it with it working. Okay, what am I doing here? Well, it looks like we're stuck at 5 volts, which is a lot better than, it dips down a little bit, which was a lot better than what it was before. The chip select was just as crappy as when I started. So then I decided to trace that back to this, if you remember this U37, which is a NAND gate. And I was getting, let's see, 2 and 5 on this chip, which are tied together. I was getting a crappy signal. So I decided to trace that back and figured out that NAND gate, one of them goes to Fat Agnus, the other one goes to the CPU, the 68,000. So I was going to go and check the 68,000. I pushed on it, and bam, I had a blue screen on here. So I was like, okay, something's wrong with that. So I pulled the 68,000 out, cleaned it, put deoxit on it, isopropyl alpha after that, cleaned the socket in the chip, put that back in. Then I noticed the ROM was a little cockeyed, just a little bit. It probably was still working, but I pushed on that, turned it back on, and bam, I got the boot screen. So let's see if it happens again. Okay, blue screen. There we go, got the boot screen again. Now I just have to work out the kinks on this converter. Oh. So I got the colors look right there. Well, the colors look better. I just got to figure out how to get a better signal. So what would be interesting is to put this all back together and then hook it up to my TV through the component and see if I get a nice clean video signal. But I think, oh, I almost killed the board. But I think I'm going to end this video here so this video doesn't get too long. So basically, my problem was, the green screen problem was the socket on the Fat Agnus chip. And then I had a blue screen, stuck on a blue screen that was based on bad seating on the CPU. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I am ecstatic. See ya.